right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the 411 Ground and Pound MMA podcast. We are your weekly look into the wide, wacky, wonderful world of mixed martial arts. My name is Robert Winfrey, and I am your host. So, thank you all very much for tuning in. I appreciate it. What do we got today? Well, we're going to review UFC on ESPN Plus 120. They were in Vancouver, and that shouldn't take very long. You know what? Normally it wouldn't take long, but I got a couple of things to unburden myself about as it pertains to that card, so we'll get to that when we get to it. We will be previewing UFC 321. Two title fights, neither of them terribly compelling. But outside of that, it's actually a solid card. Try not to be too cynical about it, but it's an okay. The pay-per-view card is pretty good. But I don't know. Maybe I'm too burned out, but I just don't care that much about the two title fights. One of them is among the worst UFC title fights on paper that they've had in a while. And that covers some ground, I'm aware. Yeah, we've also got news. So, yeah. None of it I can't say none of it I like. Most of it I'm not going to be thrilled to discuss. So, I'm going to try to stay a little bit upbeat, borderline chipper. I've been chipper since I was like a preteen. But we'll see what I can do. So that's what we're looking at here. So you know how long this is going to be. You can see the runtime. I'm just recording it. Anything you can do to interact with the product is always appreciated. Like, comment, subscribe, star rating, written review. You all know the drill for Onion and all of that. So thank you very much, mostly for listening. Anything else, I am just insanely grateful for. Listening is, again, insanely grateful, but the most important thing. So let's jump into this then, shall we? So, UFC on ESPN Plus 120, they were in Vancouver, barely scraped by a positive result here, mostly because I changed my mind on two things. One was the first fight of the night, looking at the size difference between Melissa Croden and Liznara? Ah, jeez. Lisboa, Tainara Lisboa. Wow, my brain combined her first and last name into one horrible monstrosity. Seeing the size differential on that and where the odds went, I swapped. And the other one was the Nelson and Frivola fight. I rewatched Frivola's last fight, two fights actually, and something about the way when you watch those in a row, there is something about the way he responds to damage that is really troubling. So I swapped on those, but yeah, again, barely. Um, Did I feel good about any of my predictions? Oh, wait, no, there was one other one. I swapped Long. Right, I swapped Richie Long and Cody Gibson because I saw Cody Gibson and went, oh, he's. I wish I had a better excuse than I mistook who he was, but I occasionally get him confused with, I think there was another Cody Gibson who fought in the UFC, and I kind of get them swapped in my head. So that one I changed. Ugh. Yeah, this was a mess of a card for me prediction-wise. Um, yeah, I don't feel very good about most of it. I ended 7-6, some of which was weird. What should I have got? Hang on, let's go back to what should I have gotten right that I didn't. Um, Probably Santos over Barlow. Jordan over Grant, I should have got right. Look, I like Davy Grant, but that second fight when he fights like twice a year, that second one almost never goes his way. I should have got right. I kind of took a flyer because I like Davy Grant, and it really should have been more logical about that one. Um, Probably should have got Silva over Park, but I didn't expect Silva to show up juiced to the tits. More on that later. Yeah, so I felt good switching Orichi Long. Orichi Long, I didn't. Hang on. I felt good making that switch. I feel bad that I should have done that one on the show. Um, yeah, that one I should have done on the show. So I apologize for that one. Gibson again. My excuse is I did that one. I did the last episode way early in the morning, inadvisably. So actually, and Gibson's just not that good. And when I remember, no, it's the other Gibson. No, he's probably going to lose that one. I mean, Orichi Long is not super great, but he's not that. He's good enough. Any of those that I am okay getting wrong? Main event, yeah. Co-main, oh, more on that later. Um, I should. I didn't know the physical disparity between Bakoev and Belgari. Belgari. Um, when I saw that, I went, "Oh, I should have given that much more consideration." Um, I still would have gone with Bakoev. I think I was always going to make that call, but should have given Belgori a much greater shot than I did. So that one was on me. If nothing else, again, the physical difference was enormous. All right, but yeah, that's it. So again, 7 and 6. Yeah, 7 and 6. Oy, not great, not great. Year to date, 317, 107 and 2 with two no contests. So that's where we are with that. All right. As for the fights themselves, main event: Brendan Allen defeats Rainier de Ritter via TKO corner stoppage between rounds 4 and 5. Um, on the night, Fluffy would have done bad things to de Ritter if that fight had gone through. De Ritter has a really good first round. He comes out, he lands a nice knee, forces his way into a clinch, hits a really nice judo top to step all the way across, which Haraigoshi, I believe. Pretty sure. Is that an Osotogari? It's not an Osotogari. Hang on, let me double check. Might have been an Osoto. Yeah, Haragoshi's the outside trip, isn't it? Um, yeah. No, Haragoshi's a sweeping hip throw. Let me take a quick look at that. Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, okay, that's Haragoshi or Osotogari. I mean, the distinction between those two is largely about your relationship to your opponent. The closer you are, the more square they are to you, the more it's Haragoshi, and the Osotogari is a little bit more of a leg reap. Um, Jeez, I am wasting a lot of time. You're talking about something that is really not super relevant to most of this. Um, so, but he hits one of those. Pretty sure it's Haragoshi. Yeah, Osoto is more of just the single leg on the out. Yeah, yeah. All right, so hits a Haragoshi, moves right into full mount. Spends the rest of that round moving between mount and back mount, looking for chokes and whatnot. Does an okay job. A couple of things became apparent, though. One, De Ritter's ground and pound is fairly anemic. He's really got to work on that. That will open up a lot of his submission game. Second, this has long kind of been understood about MMA, but if you've got the back, but your back is on the mat, you're actually not in the best position. It's not that you can't finish from there, but your options are super limited. This was a reminder of that. So Allen endures a tough round. Second round, he's able to get on top, does some fairly generic ground and pound, and DeRitter just kind of like loses it. It's more of that for the next couple of rounds, and then the corner stops between rounds 4 and 5, which was absolutely the right call. Yeah, DeRitter in the aftermath, like, says I think he said he came in and fought this with a broken rib, wants an immediate rematch. Look, man, couple of things about DeRitter in this one. This is a bad loss for him. Any loss is bad. There's a number of idiots who are going to do the you quit on the stool because for some reason we're still doing that crap. There's a segment of fans who will do that crap anyway. Some of the apologists for him are pointing out, he went 4-1 in his first 5 fights. He did it all in like 11 months and change. And he beat some really good guys along that way. It's all true, but it's hard to overstate what a critical loss this was in that respect. Yes, he's still got a winning UFC record, and yes, he still has some good names on his resume. That's very true. But you took on a guy that was fighting you on relatively short notice, that you were expected to beat, and you wildly underperformed. You took yourself out of the title picture, and frankly, it's not going to be easy to get back into it. So he's got to handle that. I don't know what he does next. He wants an immediate rematch. That seems unlikely. Look, a couple of other things before I move on to Allen. For DeRitter, he's a big guy for the weight class. Fighting 5 times in, again, 12 months, give or take, with that weight cut is not sustainable. It does bad things to your body. Your endocrine system gets hammered, among other things. It's real bad. The training and everything wears you down physically. You don't fight the 4th and 5th fights of that like as good as you were the 1st or the 2nd. Like that, you just wear down. It's not sustainable. MMA fighters don't do this. As a general rule, there was a line for a while, and it's a Dana White line, so it's mostly full of crap anyway. But when he was like butthurt about not being able to get Fedor into the UFC, he would occasionally say, no, Fedor couldn't cut it here. This is where the best fight the best 3 times a year. Was not true even when he said it, mind you. Now, look, I'm not here to say that Fedor's resume is filled with nothing but the elite. No, he fought some cans. Nature of the beast. He also fought the best of his generation and beat them. So, you kind of take the good with the bad there. But if you look at the UFC roster, like you can track the data on this fairly easily. You know how many people have like 4 or more fights in the UFC in a 12-month period? Have 4 in particular? It's like 10 guys. 3? You're still dealing with a small percentage of the roster. That's why the roster is enormous. Because the UFC has to fill 42 events a year, and they put 12 to 13 fights on the card. So do the math on that. That's basically every week. It's just, if they were able to get fighters to fight 3 times a year, you could actually trim the roster a little bit, but that's not sustainable. Anybody about to say, but Marab? Marab is a giant statistical anomaly in the data. That's fine, but you have to understand what it is. That's what he is. Look, if you bring up that, the average NFL career is ridiculously short. How long is it actually? Hang on, let me get this right. Yeah, if you bring up that the average NFL career length is about 3 years. Now, bear in mind, if you take like kickers and punters out of that, that number changes significantly. So you can say that. Now, if your response to that is, but Tom Brady, giant statistical anomaly in the data as an individual point. Like, that's just how this works. So, oh, but Marab. Yeah, look, I respect it. What Marab is doing is wild. Genuinely wild. Appreciate it. Also understand it is wildly outside the norm. This notion that anyone could do that is ridiculous. Alex Pereira, in a weaker division, tried to do that. He showed up for the last fight of that stretch, worn down, injured, and lost his belt. Then he steamrolled the guy in the rematch because he wasn't worn down, beat up, and having, a life and death fight earlier with Khalil Roundtree. Ugh. So, to DeRitter, if you want to do that stupidly active schedule, go to 205. It's easier on your body to cut less weight. The division is terrible. I'd rather he stuck it out at middleweight because I think he is a better fit for that division. But if that's going to be what we're doing, my man, cool it. You can try to engender yourself to the UFC brass by doing the I will fight X number of times a year thing. They'll give you lip service, but it's not going to benefit you all that much. Oh, Pereira did it, yeah? And what happened? Lost his belt. Took a chunk of time off to get healthy. And yeah, he got it back. Kind of at the graces of the UFC because they could have easily told him, no, you don't get an immediate rematch. It helps that there was no one else in the division even remotely close to a title shot, so there's textual difference, situation stuff there, but you're at their whims. But, man, if you want to turn into Kevin Holland or Donald Cerrone, that's a path you can take, but you will never achieve at the highest level. And maybe you want to try it. But man, if you want to be champion, you will not do that. Pereira got away with it for one stretch of time. We won't see him do that again. We shouldn't see him do that again. I don't want to see him do that again. But you'll see him less often. I don't care. I would rather see the Pereira that fought Ankalaev the second time twice a year than the Pereira that fought Khalil and then Ankalaev 3 to 4 times a year. I genuinely would rather watch him at his best less frequently than a diminishing version of him at a more reliable interval. And look, if I know that there's some of you out there who might be big Cowboy fans, and I respect the heck out of Donald Cerrone, but he got one title fight. It went badly for him. But he made a bunch of bonus money. Yeah, he did. Most people who try to keep his schedule last significantly less time than he did in the UFC. He was beloved by fans. Ask a modern MMA fan, ask a current contemporary MMA fan, their favorite memory of Donald Cerrone. There's a 90% chance the only memory they have of him is his fight with Conor. That's where we are. The MMA churn has turned a previously beloved figure into a guy that most current MMA fans are probably barely familiar with. Such is the nature of the sport. So, to DeRitter, dude, if you do have a busted rib, get healthy. Second of all, you shouldn't have taken this fight. Once Fluffy fell out, if you got hurt after that, this was not worth this. The risk reward here was way out of bounds. You should have stayed way away from this one. Because now you're in a bad spot. I hate to say that about a guy who, had gone 4-0 in the UFC before this and had some good wins, but you put yourself in a bad spot here, buddy. You just did. And we'll see if you can recover or not. After the fact, Brendan Allen said he'd like to fight Khamzat Chimaev. That's not happening. Or Dricus du Plessis. That's not unreasonable, believe it or not. Or a rematch with Sean Strickland. I think Sean Strickland would beat him again, for the record. I don't know that I'd favor him to beat du Plessis either, but that's a whole other discussion. So those were not the Chimaev fight. I get it, man. You just got like the highest profile win of your career. Put it out there. Fair enough. The other two are reasonable. Notice he didn't want another fight with Fluffy because, and poor John Anik on Twitter went, he didn't call him out. They fought, in the LFA years ago. Like, my man, they fought 8 months ago, too. And Fluffy beat him up. I think what rubbed me the wrong way after was Allen going, I'm not that far from a title shot. There's a real strong argument that I won the last 2 fights that I lost with Hernandez and Imavov. My man, there's a much stronger argument that you lost the Chris Curtis fight than that you won either of those fights. You have to be, not sober or sane to think that you won those fights. That is a level of... I don't mind the radical self-belief inherent to MMA. It's kind of a precondition for success. But that is a level of retroactive delusion about things we all saw that is unhelpful. Please stop that. You lost those fights. You lost them cleanly. Weren't especially competitive down the stretch. So there's that. But him and du Plessis makes sense. Him and Strickland makes sense. So we got to see what shakes out, not just in terms of, by all rights, the next title shot now should go to Nasruddin Imavov. This cleared the way for that pretty easily. That's still dependent on a couple of things. The timing for all parties, the injury load for all relevant parties, are we going to pretend that Khamzat Chimaev is a reliable, guy in terms of his schedule of fights? So there's a lot to wait and see about how this thing shakes out. I would say Allen is at the back of the pack for a title shot, but he definitely put himself into the sort of generalized orbit. A lot of things would have to break his way, and I mean a lot of things that I don't think will, but we're no longer trying to scrape the bottom of the barrel to get him a title fight. He did his job, so that was good. We don't know what we're going to do with Anthony Hernandez now. He's also saying, du Plessis or Strickland. Either of those fights would make sense for him too. So middleweight's in a weird spot now. We're trying to hash some of that out. So we'll see. We will see is the only way I can end that. And once. So yeah, DeRitter got work to do. Who should he fight next? There's good middleweights he could fight. As a minor note, man, how washed is Robert Whittaker? I didn't want to admit it, but he's kind of washed. DeRitter's going to have to fight someone like Izzy or Bahalio. Okay, so Allen was at 9. He's going to get bumped up to around the 4 spot that DeRitter has. Izzy shouldn't be 5. Hernandez should probably be a little higher. So what we're going to see is likely Hernandez bump up to 5, DeRitter fall to like 7, Allen move into 6, give or take. Izzy's got to drop further. So Hernandez might go to 4. That's kind of how I would hash that out, actually. Hernandez goes to 4. Izzy drops to 7. DeRitter drops to 6. And Allen goes to 5. Yeah, that kind of tracks for me. So DeRitter is going to be looking at Izzy, Bahalio. I get him saying he wants an immediate rematch, but that seems very unlikely. That seems super, super unlikely when it's all said and done. So, yeah, that was your main event. Not a whole lot to say about that. I gave that more than enough attention. Co-main event, oy vey, Mike Malott defeats Kevin Holland via unanimous decision, 29-28 across the board. In a fair and just world, or even just a world where there's actual application of the rules in this godforsaken sport, this would have been a draw. First round is mostly going Holland's way, not huge, but mostly. He takes a kick to the groin. Not a bad one. He acknowledges it like, hey, you kicked me low. I don't even think the ref stepped in to be like, hey, do you need a second? He kind of just waved him off. Then they clinch up, and Mike Malott knees him in the groin. He's trying to hit him. I can see where he's aiming. As the knee's coming up, it also goes like over the cup, through it, to hit the target he's aiming at. And Holland goes down. Pretty bad. And he takes the full 5 minutes to try and recover. Says he wants to continue. Then the last little bit of that round is just weird because he's clearly in intense physical pain. He gets like a 2-minute break between rounds because after the first round, he's still like not moving very well. So they bring the doctor in. The doctor screws around for a little bit. The ref talks with him again, and then we finally just restart, and Malott wins rounds 2 and 3. The fight itself was nothing remotely all that interesting. Just start there. This was a meat and potatoes fight. Nothing of value to discuss, except the way this happened, and combined with another fight on this card, actually 2 other instances on this card, one of them also involving the referee from this fight. It's Dan Murgliata. And it's been sitting on me because I didn't talk a whole lot about it after it happened, but the second fight between Usman Nurmagomedov and Paul Hughes from PFL featured a lot of fouls, eye pokes, groin kicks, and nary a point taken, because of course not. And here, Mike Malott should have had a point taken in that first round. What is the point of the rules? Dear referees, why do you exist? In theory, your mandate is to enforce the rules and protect the fighters. Okay. These days, I don't know how well you do either of those things. You just do a bad job. Of all the things that I ever thought might genuinely disgust me about this sport and drive me to the point where I'm starting to think what are we doing? Why am I watching this? What are we doing? Why? I don't really want to be here anymore. The absolute incompetence of officiating. I did not have on my top list for what would cause that, but here we are. Bad judging's real bad. The actual scoring of fights. And that got me a little bit of the way. But watching these referees just throw their hands up in the air boy, you better not do that again. Does it again. Yeah, you better not again. To lean into the joke, the referees are the joke about democratic policy on law and order, on the enforcement of law. You're going to get all these warnings. I don't know. You've been arrested, 40 times. No, we can't put you in jail, so don't do it again. Does it again, winds up back in front of the same judge. What are we doing? We're not doing anything. Yep, out you go again. Like this BS, that's kind of what we're doing here. I don't want to get on a political tangent. That's what we're doing here in MMA. Kicks him in the groin. Narea thinks, the referee like, hey, don't do that again. All right, fine, sorry. Knees him in the groin so badly it takes the man the full 5 minutes, technically a little bit longer, to sort of recover. He is never able to fully physically recover. And you do what about it, ref? Huh? What did you do? What did you do to protect Kevin Holland there? Anything? What about the rules? Did you enforce the rules? You enforced the pause in action. What about the actual rules? Huh? What did you do? Was there a point taken from Mike Malott for this egregious foul? Well, it wasn't intentional. I don't care anymore. I understand the necessity of differentiating in, call it malicious versus not malicious, if intentional versus unintentional bothers you for language. I will grant you Mike Malott was not maliciously striking Kevin Holland in the groin. I will give you that. I really will. By the time it happens the second time, and when the foul is as bad as this one was, you take a point. You just do. What is the incentive to not do this again the next time if you're Mike Malott? What is the incentive to not do this again? If you're any fighter watching this sport, watching how it's officiated, why would you not just punch someone in the groin? You're starting to get tired, they're starting to pour it on, hit them in the groin as hard as you can. Take that time and recover. Why not? The chances of you actually being assessed a meaningful penalty are so small, so infinitesimally small that there is no active deterrent to you fouling. Poke him in the eye. Grab the fence. Now, that happened like last week. Yeah, Con Offley just grabbed the fence multiple times. Referee didn't even tell him to knock it off. Including when he got the back. Offley is sort of towards the back. He grabs the fence and uses it to pull his weight all the way around to get the back properly. Referee say anything? Nope. Number of headbutts? Referee say anything? Nope. Eye pokes galore? Nope. Groin shots? You got your time to recover. But is there any penalty assessed? Nope. And look, if he'd taken a point from that first groin strike, that would have been excessive. It wasn't a terrible foul, and it was clearly, again, not malicious. The second one becomes serious because of the seriousness of the foul, the repeated nature of the foul, and the fact that at that point you're kind of just being reckless. You take a point. You are incentivizing the breaking of rules with how you are officiating. You don't get to be a non-existent party, referee. Your absence of action carries every bit as much consequence as your action. Please, do your damn jobs. Ugh. Bantamweight next. Ayman Zahabi defeated Marlon Vera via split decision. I scored this for Vera. I don't object to it going to Zahabi. Not a very interesting fight. The bantamweight division falling off to the point where Zahabi is able to make a move into the top 10 is troubling for the future of that weight class. Women's flyweight next. Manon Fior defeats Jasmine Jasdavicius via TKO punches, 114 of the first. Kind of pulled Jasdavicius into a left hand, wobbled her, got down, got to the right, landed enough punches to get the stoppage. Jasmine was not thrilled with the stoppage, but it was completely fair. In a normal division, this kind of rebound performance after losing a close 3-2 decision to a dominant champion might warrant you a rematch, but it's women's flyweight, so no one cares. Bantamweight next. Charles Jourdain defeated Davy Grant via guillotine choke, 305 of the first. Caught Grant with a beautiful flying knee, which he'd shown like 8 times. Finally landed it. Breaks Grant's nose, badly hurts him, lands punches. Grant wrestles up on a single leg purely instinctually and falls into a guillotine because Jourdan has a good guillotine. He taps perfectly understandably. Jourdan at bantamweight might be able to do some stuff. So, good win for him. And kicking off the main card, Kyle Nelson defeated Matt Frivola via unanimous decision, 130-27 to 29-28. Weirdness here. Near the end of the first round, Nelson hurts Frivola pretty badly with some punches. Runs him down, gets on top, and just starts like throwing stuff from inside. It was guard, then half guard, if memory serves. And he's landing, and Frivola's not doing well. Like he did not take those blows well. His ability to like absorb and recover from damage at this point is pretty obviously compromised. And then the referee steps in to stop things at 4:57 of the first. And Nelson thinks he's won, Frivola thinks he's lost, and the ref goes, no, that was just the end of the round. This is Dan Mergliotta again. No, my man. No. That was not the end of the round. The horn didn't go off. Now, if he genuinely thought he heard it, it's not that I'm not sympathetic to the capacity for human error on the part of a referee. I really am. What I'm not okay with is the sort of just dogged pursuit of, well, let's fix it and just keep going. Look, this happened a couple of weeks ago with Jake Matthews and Neil Magny. That ref stopped that fight. And then Neil Magny was like, no, I'm not out. And the ref went, oh, well, I guess the round was just over. Like, piss off. You thought he was out. You were wrong when you thought he was out, but that was your decision. Stand by it. Instead, you screwed Jake Matthews. Here, Kyle Nelson still recovered and got the win, but the ref just completely screwed this up. Horrible error on his part, and the lack of mechanisms for just making that go is there's no mechanism for correcting bad officiating. It just doesn't exist, basically. Terrible job by the ref. All right, on the prelims, Drew Dober defeated Kyle Prepelec via TKO, knees, punches, and a boatload of other stuff. 116 of the third. Okay. Good first round for Dober, better second round for Prepelec. We get into the third, and Dober's having some problems. Prepelec is coming after him. And then Dober throws an inside leg kick. It was more of one of those two, because they're opposite stances at the moment. No, they're both southpaw. Prepelec is switching, so throws a kick. It catches Prepelec in the groin, and Prepelec is pretty hurt by that. So the referee calls the timeout. He tells Prepelec, you got the full 5 minutes. Take your time and recover. He takes a point from Drew Dober, which was correct to do in my estimation, because that was a pretty bad foul. At about the 4-minute mark, Prepelec goes, okay, I can continue. Now, he still had another minute if he wanted it. I don't know if he wasn't fully clear on the time or if he genuinely felt at that point like, okay, I'm good. Either way. But in the aftermath of that, Dober storms at him like a bat out of hell, catches him, bludgeons him, gets the finish, and people aren't happy. And it's not that I don't understand the purely emotional reaction. I have to ask you the following question. On a night when I was just personally fed up with so much of the officiating in the sport, I have to ask you, what else should have happened here? Look, here's what happened. Drew Dober kicked Kyle Prepelec unintentionally, again, not maliciously, near as anyone can tell, in the groin. He fouled him. Prepelec got the full time to recover that he is allowed. Dober was penalized with a point deduction. If he doesn't get that finish, he can't win that fight. The best he can get is a draw, in all likelihood. Unless he's able to score a 10-8, which would then be a 9-8, which would still give him the 1 point edge when they're all tallied up. But he is given the point deduction. Like there is a genuine penalty assessed to him, and Prepelec then says, "I'm good to continue." This is how it should be handled. And you can be annoyed that meant that the time down let Dober recover his wind and everything, and that sucks in some respects. I just don't know what else you would like done here. Unless you want the ref to just sort of start disqualifying people for this kind of thing all the time. I didn't say that Mike Malott should have been disqualified. I said he should have had a point taken, which I stand by. I don't think Drew Dober should have been disqualified. He had a point taken. He should have. And if the system's being gamed a little bit, but if you think he did it, maliciously, I don't know. You could maybe argue that point. I'm going to just say the following. There's always rules. They're always going to be gamed. Intentional fouling is a thing in every sport, pretty much. There's very few exceptions to this. Happens in basketball all the time. If you're trying to protect a lead or if you're trying to run the clock, you draw fouls or you foul someone, especially if they're not a good free throw shooter. You foul. It's part of the game. And it's been gamed, and maybe you don't like it. I don't. But it was a thing. Again, they've worked a little bit on it, but still a thing. Drawing fouls or other penalties in football is a thing. Like, that's all stuff that happens. My big thing is if you do believe that Dober committed that foul with the express intent of giving himself time to recover physically from fading, I'm going to ask again, what should have been done that the referee didn't do? You think 2 points should have been taken instead of 1? I mean, 2 points is a big deal in any 5-round or lower fight. And you really, the circumstances whereby those are really, that particular foul is really understandable, that actually does kind of require a bit of a burden of proof from the ref, either of your gross negligence, repeated negligence, or just a deliberate attempt to foul that you can kind of reasonably defend if called upon to defend your decision. But would another point being taken from Dober for that foul have changed what happened? So unless your argument is you want referees unilaterally disqualifying people more regularly, we kind of just have to accept the fact that there is a degree of ability to game the system that is built into all systems. You can't get away from that. It's kind of a feature. And look, if Prepelec was seriously damaged by that, he should have said, no, I can't continue. Holland probably should have said, no, I can't continue. Of course he didn't. And your response to that might be, well, fighters never say they can't continue unless there's something like genuinely physically debilitating going on. Well, okay, but that's their choice then. You live with the consequences of that choice. Like, are we just like removing agency from these people? Kyle Prepelec got kicked in the groin. I feel very bad for him. He was fighting well. Genuinely feel bad for the guy. He won the second round. He was, for as long as that third round kind of went before the foul, he was actually doing well in that round too. I feel bad for the guy. But if At the end of your recovery from a foul, the period of time you are allotted to recover from a foul, you say, I'm good to continue. You accept the consequences of that choice. You looking at that other guy, you know what's going on over there. If you can't continue, or you feel that, and again, it's not like there was no point taken from Dober. The ref did. A fairly serious penalty was assessed. I don't know, like I said, I don't quite know what else you could do here. It sucks that it played out that way for Prepelec. It really does. It's not that I'm not sympathetic on an emotional level, but dude, you said, yes, I can continue. Everything that follows you saying that is on you and that decision that you made. The referee didn't do you dirty here. You made the choice about when to come back within the time limit. He deducted a point from your opponent. Again, I don't quite know what else could have been done here. It's not like the referee didn't even like make an error on the restart. It's not like somebody got fouled on the ground and they restarted them standing. Like, I don't know what else could have been done here. Once again, it's not like Dober just got a stern warning from this. He lost a point. It would have cost him this fight if he didn't get the finish. It removed his ability to not. It removed his ability to win absent a finish. Certainly. Yeah, I don't like it. I don't like that we might be reaching a point in MMA where fouls are being gamed like that. But I'm more upset that the number of fouls being used that are unpunished or uncommented upon by the referees. That's a much bigger issue to me than anything that happened here, for whatever it's worth. All right, next up, Orichi Long stopped Cody Gibson in 21 seconds. Gibson just stance switched into southpaw, then threw a naked kick, and Orichi Long just countered him with the old bonking 1-2. You throw a really hard kick early on in a fight, there's a non-trivial chance you're going to eat a solid counter. Your early kicks are not supposed to be super hard because neither of you really know what you're doing, but if the other guy's just throwing punches, he's in a better spot than you are, and that probably goes not your way. So, take that for what it's worth. Bruno Silva defeated Hyun-Sung Park via rear naked choke, 2:15 of the third. Park got rushed a little bit. Like, he looked okay coming off of the Road to UFC stuff. Then on short notice, he bumped up to fight Tatsuro Taira. That didn't go his way. Here he's fighting another ranked guy. He should not have been fighting a ranked guy here. In hindsight, it's pretty easy to see that. But Silva, suddenly jacked, suddenly got some punching power, and the worst case of back knee you've seen in a year or so. That dude would not pass a legitimate drug test. I'm just throwing that out there. No way he would pass a real drug test. I don't know what he got on, but he got on some good stuff. So there's that. Next up, Jordan Santos defeated Danny Barlow via unanimous decision, 29-28. Not a whole lot here. Kind of mediocre middleweights. Stephanie Luciano defeated Havana Oliveira via rear naked choke, 2:50 of the third. I don't remember a whole lot about this. Luciano just kind of better than Oliveira had a decent first half to the first round, but couldn't do anything with it. Started missing bigger and bigger, and Luciano just did okay through the whole thing. Middleweights next. Yusri Belgarwi defeats Azamat Bakoev via punches 55 seconds of the third round. Bakoev comes out, tries real hard in the first, but he's not good about cage cutting. He's not good about throwing kicks, which would have helped him tremendously. And he kind of gasses himself out trying a lot of wrestling that Belgori defends against the cage for the most part in the first round. Then the much bigger, Belgari's big. I mean, he's like, what, 6'6"? 6'5". Yeah, with 79 inches of reach, he was much bigger. Just sniped him, led him around. Man, just Bakulev's inability to like commit to kicks, especially leg kicks while backing the other guy up, especially once they hit the fence. Oy, drove me nuts. But Bakoev, tough loss for him. He was kind of looking like maybe somebody could make some noise at middleweight. Might still be time for him to retool, but there's stuff he's got to work on. Belgarwi, solid UFC debut against got a win he was not expected to, so good for him. And kicking everything off, Melissa Croden defeated Tainara Lisboa via TKO punches, 4:32 of the third. Little bit back and forth. Croden just kind of broke down Lisboa over time and started landing better punches, got her hurt, got her down, got her out in the third. Solid enough debut for Croden. As for your bonuses, fight of the night went to Dober and Prepolek. That's probably fair. Performances went to Jordan and Orichi Long. I'm not going to argue with that too much. So, yeah, full report, MMAZona411mania.com. Y'all know the drill as far as that goes now, so please give that a read if you are so inclined. Thank you very much. Okay. I need you. There you are. All right, so I did not expect to spend that long talking about that. My apologies, people. Okay, moving on to UFC 321. There we go. They are on pay-per-view. One of the last. Move that back over there. There we go. 2 title fights. Yeah, again, not the world's worst main card. Not as much stuff outside of that. There's some okay stuff here. That needs to be referenced, so let's get to it. Main event for the heavyweight title. Freshly promoted undisputed champion Tom Aspinall fights Cyril Gane. I don't have a whole lot to say here. Look, Aspinall's defense does have some issues. Does a lot of chin high stuff, and especially when backing up, like there's opportunity there. But Gane, when he gets going, like, when he's just kind of sniping at distance, he actually has pretty good technique. When he gets into like finishing mode, it goes out the window, and he's throwing standing hammer fists. He's kind of cavemaning his way through it. Gane has had issues with his grappling, his wrestling. He can be hit standing, and Aspinall has power. Look, I'm not at all going to sit here and pretend that Gane can't win this fight. He definitely has ways to win. If he can keep this fight really long, he's got good kicks. He definitely does have some power. And again, Aspinall's defense has defensive tendencies that could be attacked. But I need a really good reason to pick against Tom Aspinall at this point, and Cyril Gane does not present that. Aspinall is very light on his feet, especially for a man his size, very athletic, has power, has wrestling, has submissions. Like, I would need a very, very good, like I said, I need a very good reason to pick against Aspinall. I am not, once again, not saying that Gane is incapable of winning, but I favor Aspinall, and I favor him pretty comfortably. So, yeah, picking Aspinall. Not a whole lot else to say there. Co-main event for the strawweight title, which is now vacant. Virna Jandiroba and Mackenzie Dern. Once again, nobody really cares about this fight. Jandiroba, 37. On a good winning streak. Her last loss was to Amanda Hebos. Since then, 5 in a row. Angela Hill, Marina Rodriguez, Lupe Godinez, Amanda Lemos, and Yan Xiaonan. All solid wins. She has a loss to Dern from 2020. This is the last stand of Mackenzie Dern. Like, they've tried really, really hard to make her a thing. They've tried really, really hard to get her into the title picture. And she's just stumbled at these weird moments. Some of them were not her fault. That fight with Yan Xiaonan should have been a draw. It wasn't. But, she not too long ago was on back-to-back losses to Jessica Andrade and Amanda Lemos. Her most recent 2-fight winning streak over Lupe Godinez and Amanda Hebos is okay, but yeah, we're just kind of this. I think like saying this is her last stand is kind of the right way to put it. Both women tend to favor being jiu-jitsu practitioners. I want to lean Dern. The odds are a little bit with Dern. I'm going to. I guarantee you the UFC really wants Dern to win this. Women's strawweight is actually in kind of a rough spot. Dern is at least somewhat popular. Jandiroba just kind of exists. But yeah, that's your title fight. Don't have a whole lot there. Bantamweight's next. Umar Nurmagomedov and Mario Bautista. Umar coming off of that title fight loss to Merab Dvalishvili. His first professional loss. Live, I scored that for him. On rewatch, I'm more sympathetic to the Merab scorecard. Bautista, on a good winning streak. He's just still, everybody's still pissed at him for the Jose Aldo fight. Coming out, he looked good against Patchy Mix. Umar's just kind of in this spot where he's a little bit like Merab for me. You have to present a really, really compelling reason for me to pick against him. Bautista can win this fight. I think if you underestimate him here, he will surprise you. He is very light on his feet, has really good movement, is very smart about winning rounds, even though that frequently can lead to lackluster fights, depending on who he's fighting and how he's choosing to fight them. Okay, the odds are pretty big for Umar. Talking like minus 500. I would not feel comfortable holding that. Personally, like that, I would not be comfortable at all holding that one. I'm still gonna pick Umar, but that's asking for trouble. If you're having to pay out plus 400 on Bautista, you could get burned pretty badly on that one. Just throwing that out there. Heavyweights next. Alexander Volkov and Jailton Almeida. I think logically this is Almeida. His only loss in the UFC is to Curtis Blades. That was last year. He's coming off back-to-back wins over Alexander Romanov and Sergey Spivak. Isn't Volkov coming off of that weird loss to Cyril Gane? On rewatch, I was much cleaner for Volk on that one. For Volkov, it's still the round in question is still close enough that I'm not up in arms about it, but this is a tough one. Odds are with Almeida. I completely understand why. His jiu-jitsu is really, really good. The size difference is standing out to me here. Almeida's not small. He's 6'4", 79 inches of reach. He's got long arms for his frame, actually. Volkov, is enormous. He's 6'7", 80 inches of reach. Long legs, too. I haven't picked an underdog yet. Almeida doesn't have the best responses to being hit. I don't know. He's good about being sticky, though. If there's something that would, like, catch Volkov off guard here and cause him problems, it's nothing at distance. It's more that once Almeida, like, makes contact, actually getting away from him can be difficult. I think I'm still going to go Volkov. Gonna asterisk this one. I need to rewatch a couple of things on both guys, but I'm actually leaning Volkov as I record this. And kicking off the main card, we have Alexander Rakic versus Azamat Murzakanov. He used to have high hope or moderately high hopes for Rakic, but the knee injury he suffered in that Jan Blachowicz fight just really kind of wrecked him. He's on a 3-fight losing streak. Now, granted, those losses, again, the knee injury to Jan Blachowicz in 22, finally comes back, loses to Yuri Prochazka because that was a heck of a welcome back fight. That was a good fight, man. What he was doing would have worked against a lot of guys, just not Yuri. And most recently lost a unanimous decision to Magomed Ankalaev. That was not a terribly thrilling fight. But he's got to get back on the winning side of things here if he wants to make a push. Murzakanov, on the other end, he's short for the division. He's actually only 5'10". And Rakic is a pretty big dude. But Murzakanov is undefeated, 15-0, including, 5 in the UFC, excuse me. All of them finishes. That's Stefan Chukwi, Devin Clark, Dustin Jacoby, Alonzo Menafield, and Brendan Hiberio. So he's taken a fairly notable step up in class here. Sorry, he didn't finish Jacoby. So almost all finishes. The size difference is a big thing. Again, Rakic is big. He's 6'5". So that, it's not, Murzakanov is good, though. He can absolutely overcome that. Odds are close, but kind of leaning towards Murzakanov. Rakic has also looked a little gun shy. Yeah, I don't feel great about this one, but I'm going to go with Murzakanov as well. Kind of rooting for Rakic, though. All right, on the prelims, this is actually a pretty good fight. Ludovic Klein and Mateusz Rembeszki. So Klein coming off a loss to Mateusz Gamrot. He had a good winning streak going before that. He hadn't lost at lightweight, actually, in the UFC at that point. And that was a pretty good fight. Rembeszki's coming off of a win, I believe. No, the loss to Chris Duncan. Good fight, but yeah, Duncan kind of handled him. We're gonna get some fun stuff out of this one. Odds are with Klein. Rembeszki does slow a little bit down the stretch. Klein's got good body work too. Yeah. You know the other thing about Rembeszki? He not only marks up, his eyes in particular have a real bad habit of swelling. So that needs to be noted. So I'll agree with the odds and go with Klein, but that's a good fight. Middleweight next, Ikram Alaskarov and Jun-Young Park, because I'm tempted to go with Park just because I like the Iron Turtle. Alaskarov had that loss to Robert Whittaker. He rebounded with a pretty decent win over Andre Muniz, but dude, when he hasn't, his only losses are to Robert Whittaker and Khamzat Chimaev. And he took the Whittaker fight on, I think, a little bit short notice. But, like I said, man, Whittaker looks to be a little bit washed at this point. And Muniz is super washed. Park. Let's see. 2-fight winning streak over Brad Tavares and Ismail Narudiev. The split decision loss to Andre Muniz that I recall thinking he won. I mean, the logic is kind of with Alaskarov. He's got the better upside. I hate picking against Park. I hate picking against the Iron Turtle. Just always I always feel bad about it. I'm gonna asterisk this one and just reserve the right to change my mind on a few things, but I'm gonna go with Alaskarov, but that one, don't hold me to. I might feel very, very differently come fight night on that one. Lightweights next, Abdul Karim Al Sawadi and Mateus Camilo. Odds are really close, leaning a little bit towards Al Sawadi. Have a quick look here. Where are you? There you are. So Al Sawadi is 15-4. Coming off a loss in his UFC debut to Loic Radzhabov. Not a lot of shame in that one. He's been out for a minute, though. He's had 3 fights fall out since then. Geez, Guram Kurtadzeladze, Jordan Levitt, and Balaji Oki. That's some unfortunate luck. Camilo, 9-3. Dropped his UFC debut to Gabe Green. That's a little bit of a tough one. I was not super impressed with what Al Sawadi showed off. Yeah, all right. I'll go with Camilo. I don't know. I don't have a strong opinion on that one. Next up, Nathaniel Wood and Jose Miguel Delgado. So Wood has done pretty well since moving up to featherweight. Only loss in that time period is to Muhammad Naimov. 2-fight winning streak over Pineda and Morgan Chartier. So that's certainly respectable. Delgado, 10-1. 7-fight winning streak. 2 wins in the UFC over Connor Matthews and Hader Emil. He's taken a step up here. Okay. Feels like the kind of fight Wood should win, but that also means he's like primed to slip on the banana peel. Guess he does that on occasion. He's also not the biggest guy in the weight class. Super technical, though. Odds are with Delgado. I need to remind myself of who he is. I'm going to respect the odds for the moment, but I'm going to asterisk that one. I got to rewatch his UFC fights. Let's see. Heavyweights, Hamdi Abdelwahab and Chris Barnett. Good grief. Who cares? Abdelwahab coming off a loss to Muhammad Usman. That fight sucked out loud. Chris Barnett coming off a loss to Kennedy Nzechukwu. That was a weird fight. Look, sentimentally, I'm with Barnett. Abdelwahab, I don't care for in almost any capacity. Odds are seriously with Abdelwahab. I completely understand why. Barnett tends to lose these kinds of things. Nuts to it. I'm going with Barnett. I will eat that loss if I have to, but Abdelwahab just slows down a lot. He also isn't that much. Barnett, as a heavyweight, is kind of like a wrecking ball. He's not very tall, and the physical dimensions have been a problem for him in the past. Their physical differences are not as big with Abdelwahab. I mean, Abdelwahab's probably going to wrestle hump him for enough time to win the fight, but I'm going with Barnett. I will just be very wrong about that one, and I will accept that. Flyweight next, Azat Maksum and Mitch Raposo. Maksum from Kazakhstan, 15-2. He's coming off of a loss. 2 losses, actually. Jeez. He had an okay win in his UFC debut over Tyson Nam, then he lost to Charles Johnson and Tiger Ulanbekov. Maxim's good, but like if he can't get you down, he really struggles. Then there's Raposo. Raposo's on a bit of a rough stretch, if memory serves. 9-3. Yeah, he's what, 0-2 in the UFC? Yeah, losses to Andre Lima and Sumudarji, both split decisions. Guys had some hard luck in that respect. I agreed with him losing, I think both of those. I'd have to double check the second one. I agreed with him losing the Lima fight. I recall that. The Sumudarji one, I was a bit more. I might have scored for him. Um, yeah, odds are with Maxim. I'm gonna respect that. And then we have two fights that I'm sure will be placed higher on the card. I just don't think we have a finalized bout order for them. At heavyweight, Walter Walker and Louis Sutherland. Both guys had fights fall out fairly recently. So they were matched up and moved here. Where are you? So Walker 14-1 on the like heel hook streak. Sutherland 10-3 coming into his UFC debut. I'm okay picking Walker here. Look, what he does is going to get him hurt at heavyweight at some point, but I don't think Sutherland is the caliber of fighter who's going to do it. And we also have lightweight fight between Nasrat Haqparast and Quillan Salkild. You're going to make me type out either Haqparast or Salkild. Mother... I don't need that in my life, man. I really don't. Probably just Haqparast. I mean, Salkild had a good, debut? I think his UFC debut. Yeah, he's 9-1. 9-fight winning streak. 2 fights in the UFC, excuse me. Beat Anshul Jubli and then Yanal Ashmuz. The Ashmuz win was not quite as impressive. The wheels are going to fall off for Haqparast at some point. But he is on a 5-fight winning streak. He's only 30. He's been with the UFC for a while, is all. I mean, his UFC debut was, what? Yeah, 2017 when he beat Marcin Held. Or lost to Marcin Held, excuse me. Current winning streak is McDessie, Quinones, Malarkey, Gordon, and Ribovics. Those last two were split. I did not think he won. Oh, was it the Ribovics fight I didn't score for him? I was real sympathetic to the Gordon one going to Jared Gordon too, by the way, if memory serves. It's enough for me to still fade Haqparast here, but not by a lot. And that is the card. So tune in Saturday, MMAZona411mania.com. You'll know where I'll be. I will be covering that live, so stop by, say hello. Always appreciated. All right, let me move on through the news here. Some of this will be quick, some of it will not. Sad news. American kickboxing figure and MMA coach Duke Rufus passed away this last week. Again, he was moderately important in the American kickboxing scene, especially like the long pants kickboxing. As derided as that is in some respects. As an MMA, I mean, he founded Rufus Sport, which had a lot of good guys come through there. You know, the Pettis brothers, Paul Felder, Tyron Woodley fought out of there, Bilal Muhammad fought out of there. Among others, you know. I mean, to his detriment, CM Punk fought out of there and just ruined some of his statistical stuff, but I kid. He was not that old. He was only like 55. Too young. So, sad. He was, by all accounts, a blessing to have had in the sport. So, my condolences to his family and friends and all those mourning his loss. That sucks. That really sucks. Listening to Paul Felder get emotional about him when because they gave the commentary team a little bit of time to talk about him between some of the fights, and Felder, again, one of his fighters, got visibly and audibly emotional talking about him. So when enough people miss you that deeply, it speaks well of your character. It's not. I'm not nominating the guy for sainthood or anything, but it speaks well of you as a general rule. So, all right, moving on. UFC 323 got announced. So take a minute and parse this one out. So this will be the last pay-per-view under the ESPN era, the last actual fight. They're going out with an Apex card. The last event the UFC is hosting on ESPN is a fight night headlined by a fight between Brandon Royval and Manel Kape. That's actually not a bad fight, but they're closing it out with a flyweight main event in the warehouse. As for 323, sorry, we'll get to that fight when we get to it. We don't have everything, but we have a lot. We have the main event. Merab Dvalishvili, a madman, defending the belt against Petr Yan. Okay, Yan makes sense. The timetable, Merab is trying to defend the belt 4 times in a 12-month period. He would be the first UFC champion since Tito Ortiz to do that. If he wins this, he is the fighter of the year for 2025 pretty easily. I think adding a second win over Petr Yan, especially if he's able to do it like definitively again, would probably make him the best bantamweight ever. I think that would put him enough above Cruz, who I think is his only competition at this point, that it's the case I would make. Yeah, it's wild what he's trying to do. What he's probably going to do. Petr Yan can win that fight. He's very good, but Merab is just Merab. It's at the point where I am not picking against him until he loses. Like, even if there's a fight that I think he might not go his way, I'm just going to pick him until he actually loses a fight. Also in the co-main event for the flyweight belt, Alexandre Pantoja and Joshua Van. Relevant. It's the right fight to make. See what happens afterward. Because no one cares about flyweight, even though they should, because Pantoja is awesome. We also on that card will have Jan Blachowicz and Bogdan Gushkov. Don't care. I mean, rooting for Blachowicz, but don't care that much. Brandon Moreno and Tatsuro Taira. It's a good fight. Taira getting another step up to the elite level. That's going to be tough for him, man. His defense needs to have come up. If his defense has not improved since the Royval fight, Moreno will definitely put stuff on him. Henry Cejudo versus Peyton Talbot. If you think that's odd, Cejudo, I think, has said this is a retirement fight. Wouldn't be the first time he's retired. We'll see if that sticks. Talbot got out-wrestled and out-grappled by Hani Barcelos. If he hasn't fixed that, Henry Cejudo is going to do the same thing. Also, Marvin Vettori and Bruno Ferreira. Okay, that's not a bad fight. It's just, I'm not super excited about it. Macy Barber and Karini Silva, don't care. Mansour Abdul Malik and Antonio Trocoli, do not care at all. Terrence McKinney and Chris Duncan, that will be fun for as long as it lasts. Terrence McKinney either knocks you out quickly or gets knocked out quickly. And Faris Ziam and Nazim Sadikov, that's actually a pretty good fight. That's going to go under a lot of people's radar, but Sadikov hasn't lost since his professional debut. He is 4-0-1 in the UFC. He fought to a draw with Vyacheslav Borsho. Yeah, Sadakov's good, and Fares Ziam is pretty darn good. He's coming off a win over Mike Davis. He knocked out Matt Frivola before that. That's a good fight. So 323, looking pretty solid. Looking pretty solid thus far. We'll see if it holds up. But yeah, that's where we are with that one. So, okay, I got to talk about this because this happened this last week. So the California State Athletic Commission got together and behind closed doors basically all said, look, we're going to support the American Boxing Reformation Revival Act, right? Because if we don't, TKO is going to be pissed at us, and we don't want that. So we'll do that, and we'll make the announcement, and they did a thing, and people got to call in and talk. The only people calling in support of this are like TKO executives. Nick Khan was there. Dana White, or current UFC employees like Forrest Griffin or guys like that. Opposing it were a lot of former UFC fighters talking about, hey, this model sucks. You know who was not featured on this almost at all? I think at all, actually. Any boxing promoter. Oscar De La Hoya made a social media video about it after the fact. You could have called in and made your opinion known, buddy. Any boxers were not heard from. Didn't call in, didn't have anything to say. Now, the California State Athletic Commission has no binding power over this. This is federal legislation that has to be passed. What they're all saying is we think it's a good thing. It's not. It is definitively not. But they don't want to get sideways with TKO because then TKO could just go, okay, nothing we do comes to California. You won't get a WWE event. You won't get a UFC event. You won't get TKO Zuffa Boxing or whatever they wind up calling it. TKO is kind of like one of the biggest, if not the biggest, live entertainment entities in the world. And if you get sideways with them, that's going to affect what they bring to your state. It affects what your state can tax. It affects tourism to your states. Dude, a big WWE event in particular, like that carries big economic ramifications. You want that. So getting sideways about this stuff, they don't want to do it. So they are abdicating their responsibility in favor of cronyism, is what's going on here. Let me get a couple of things out of the way here. One of Muhammad Ali's, I think his widow, he's got like 5 ex-wives or something, said, no, Muhammad Ali would absolutely support this act. And no, the hell he wouldn't. Everything that they're trying to put into place here, that they're trying to carve out exceptions for, is the stuff he went, no, this is what's screwing boxers over. They're trying to just put it back in. Now, the problem is, as a PR thing, everyone's fighting an uphill battle trying to oppose this. One, all bills have names that are meant to paint them in a very positive light. We're trying to revive American boxing is what we're trying to do here. Now, there's no argument that American boxing is in a bad spot. It's Bud Crawford. That's kind of it. Other than that, Jake, he's the best. But who's the biggest draw in American boxing? It's kind of Jake Paul, the sideshow. American boxing is in a bad spot. So a group deciding they want customized federal legislation passing off as we're trying to fix American boxing is an easy PR sell. It's not true, but it's a PR sell. If you want to know how untrue that is, by the way, look, the problem... So American boxing's not in a good spot. There's not a big American boxing star. Boxing is struggling to draw talent, etc., etc. That's a problem if you care about American boxing. It really is. And I don't have a great solution for you. Wish I did. Because then I could point to it and say, this is the actual solution. I don't have that. Let me tell you what I do have, though. I have the ability to look at the UFC because they're trying to import their business model into boxing. It's all they're trying to do is copy and paste, right? Now I can tell you how well that's worked out for American MMA. We're going to trust with reviving American boxing, a group that over the last 10, 15 years has been unable to drum up interest in American MMA. A group that has a whopping one American champion in the year of our Lord 2025. One. It's Kayla Harrison. I know Merab became a citizen. God bless him. No one associates him with American mixed martial arts. He doesn't. He might bring out the American flag, but that's the other thing. Like, there's a lot of guys who are technically American who put up different flags when they say they want to be represented. But let's just run through this. How is the state of American mixed martial arts under the auspices of TKO / the UFC? Okay, let's run through this. We can do this weight class by weight class. All right, let's start at flyweight. So we have a Brazilian champion. Joshua Van reps Myanmar. Brandon Moreno, American. Brandon Royval. No, Brandon Moreno's Mexican, excuse me. Brandon Royval, American. Sorry, got the Brandons backwards. Amir Al-Bazi is Iranian, if memory serves. Tyra is Japanese. Kaikara France is New Zealand. Manel Kopp is Portuguese. Alex Perez, which Alex Perez is this? Okay, he's American, if memory serves. Pretty sure. So we've got 2 in the top 10. Asu Almabayev is Kazakh. Okay, Tim Elliott is 10, so we got 3 sort of. Elliott probably shouldn't be number 10, but that's a whole other discussion. So we got like 3. 3 in the top 11 because the champion isn't ranked. So actually, if we cut that off at 9 for the top 10 fighters and not top 10 contenders, there's 2. All right, how's bantamweight doing? We got Merab, Georgian. Sean O'Malley at number 1. He should not be the number 1 contender. American, okay? Umar Nurmagomedov, Russian. Piotr Yan, Russian. Corey Sandhagen, American. Song Yadong, Chinese. Davison Figueiredo, Brazilian. Marlon Vera, Ecuadorian. Mario Bautista at 8. American. And then Ayman Zahabi at number 9, Canadian. So we got a couple there, but O'Malley shouldn't be ranked that highly. Corey probably should take a hit too, but so we got a couple. But not a champion and not a viable contender. O'Malley just got choked out by Merab not too long ago. And Corey just lost a pretty clear fight. Not a viable contender there. How's featherweight? Champion Volkanovski, Aussie. Number 1, Mosar Evloev, Russian. Diego Lopez, Brazilian / Mexican, sort of. Yair Rodriguez, Mexican. Lerone Murphy, British. Aljamain Sterling at number 5, American. Arnold Allen, British. Yusuf Zalal. Oh, I can't remember. Moroccan. Yeah, that's who he reps. Moroccan. I think he's listed as being born there too. So Moroccan. Brian Ortega should not be at featherweight. I'm not counting him. Josh Emmett, American, and Gian Silva, Brazilian. So we got 2 at featherweight. Lightweight. Champion Ilya Topuria, Georgian / Spanish. Islam Makhachev, number 1. Why is he ranked there? He's not in the weight class anymore. Son of a... Russian. Armin Saryukian, Armenian. Charles Oliveira, Brazilian. Max Holloway, American. Justin Gaethje, American. Paddy Pimblett, British. Dan Hooker, I think he's from New Zealand. Yeah, New Zealand. Mateusz Gamrot, Poland. Benil Dariush, he reps Iran. Albazi's Iraqi, not Iranian. Excuse me, I got that wrong. Dariush, born in America, but I think he reps Iran, right? Might have been born there too, actually. I don't know. Hang on. No, he's American. I don't know. Yeah, he always comes out with the Iranian flag, though. I think it was the Iranian flag. I don't know. Okay, so we got Dariush, and then Fazeev, who is crap. I can see the flag in my head, but he's Azerbaijani. Okay. Okay. So again, you got 3 there, give or take. Sort of depends on how few of those wanted to be counted. But yeah. So we got 3, and again, maybe not really a viable challenger there. Gagey might get it on a legacy thing, but Topuria knocked out Max Holloway not that long ago. Anyway, welterweight. Champion, Aussie, Jack Della Maddalena. Number 1, Bilal Muhammad, who is American but always reps Palestine. Number 2, Sean Brady, American. Okay, there's that. Number 3, Shavkat Rakhmonov, Kazakh. Leon Edwards, UK. Kamaru Usman, who should not be ranked that highly. The man's been out of action forever and a day. American. No, he reps Nigeria. Right, Nigerian, excuse me. Ian Machado Gary, Irish. Joaquin Buckley, American. Michael Morales, Ecuadorian. Carlos Prates, Brazilian. And I'm not going to dignify Colby Covington being ranked. I'm just not. So again, we got what? 1? Maybe? Middleweight. Kamzat Chimaev, Swedish/Russian. It sort of depends on which one he wants to rep. Number 1, Dricus du Plessis, South African. Nasruddin Imavov, French/Russian. Sean Strickland, American. Reinier de Ritter, Dutch. This is going to swap. Israel Adesanya, Nigeria/New Zealand. Anthony Hernandez, American. Kyoba Halio, Brazilian. Robert Whitaker, Australian. Brendan Allen, again, he's going to get bumped up somewhere, American. So we got a couple there. Strickland probably shouldn't be ranked 3rd, but we got 3 there. Light heavyweight. Champion, Alex Pereira, Brazilian. Followed by Ankalaev, Russian. Prochazka, Czech. Carlos Ulberg, Kiwi. So New Zealand. Jan Blachowicz, Polish. Khalil Roundtree shouldn't be number 5. American. Jamal Hill shouldn't be number 6. American. Alexander Rakic, Austrian. Dominic Reyes, American. So there's a few there, but not a viable contender among them. Again, Roundtree should be lower. Hill should be lower. Volkan Oezdemir, Swiss. And then Azamat Mirzakhanov, Russian. How about heavyweight? How's heavyweight looking? Champion, Tom Aspinall, British. Contenders, Cyril Gane, French. Alexander Volkov, Russian. Sergey Pavlovich, Russian. Curtis Blade should not be number 4, American. Jailton Almeida, Brazilian. Waldo Cortez Acosta, Dominican. Sergey Spivak, Moldovan? Moldovan or Ukrainian? I think he's Ukrainian. No, he's Moldovan. I was right. Not apologize for that one. Derek Lewis should not be number 8, American. Ante Delia, Croatian. And Marcin Tabora, Polish. Taito Ivasa should not be ranked. Shamil Gaziv is from Bahrain. I can go down the list. You got what? 2? Derek Lewis shouldn't be ranked, for the record. Let's check on the women's side of things. Maybe it's a little bit better there, right? At strawweight, we have no champion. Was Zhang Weili, Chinese. Verna Jandiroba, Brazilian. Tatiana Suarez, American. Okay, there's that. Yan Xiaonan, Chinese. Amanda Lemos, Brazilian. Mackenzie Dern, Brazilian / American, but she reps Brazil. Lupe Godinez, Mexican. Yasmin Lucindo, Brazilian. Tabitha Ricci, Brazilian. And Jessica Andrade, probably shouldn't be ranked up there, Brazilian. Yeah. Women's flyweight. Champion, Shevchenko, Kyrgyzstan. Contenders, Natalia Silva, Brazilian. Manon Fior, French. Alexa Grasso, Mexican. Erin Blanchfield, there's one. American. Jasmine Jasdavicius, Canadian. She's going to drop. Macy Barber, American. Shouldn't be there. Rose Namajunas, American. She tends to rep Lithuania. Probably shouldn't be there. Tracy Cortez. So there's a few more American women at flyweight, but none with a prayer of actually getting the belt. And at women's bantamweight, we have American champion. Here's the only one where we have like a genuine American presence, and boy, is that sad. Champion Kayla Harrison. Number 1 contender. Should not be there. Juliana Pena. American. Number 2, Raquel Pennington. American. Should not be there. This division sucks. Ketlin Vieira at 3, Brazilian. Norma Dumont, Brazilian. Yana Santos, Russian. Irene Aldana, Mexican. Macy Chasson, can't make weight reliably, American. Eileen Perez, Argentinian. Carol Hosa, Brazilian. And Harrison's next fight is against the Brazilian Amanda Nunes, who also recently became an American citizen, if memory serves. So these are the people that we're going to entrust with revitalizing American boxing, a group of people who are aware that they can't attract genuine American talent to the sport they actually promote the majority of the time. They know it. People within the UFC cannot be dense enough to look at their roster, look at the same stuff I'm looking at. They cannot be looking at that and go, you know what? We're okay not having American draws, not having American champions. I don't mind that other nations have success in MMA. It is a genuine global sport. I'm okay with that. I am not out here saying that I need America to be on top of the sport. I'm really not, because that's not my point. My point here is, if you're worried about the state of American boxing and you want to make it better, entrusting the people who, through their business practices, have ground up and basically spit out and destroyed the pipeline for genuine American talent in the sport of mixed martial arts, I'm not sure that's such a good idea. That track to anybody else? You want to revive American boxing, trusting the guys to try and do it who are more interested in trying to get like Mexican MMA and Chinese MMA off the ground and into a better state is maybe not the right way to go here. Like, that's just boxing attracts attention, and its participatory rate is based on the ability to get really big payouts. The potential, not everyone gets it, but the potential to do what Bud Crawford did, what Canelo Alvarez did. Dude, Deontay Wilder, much as we all clown on him, made a lot of money. Nobody's making Deontay Wilder money in the UFC. Dana White uses that as an absurd number. John Jones, who is more valuable to the UFC than Deontay Wilder was to boxing, mind you, wants Deontay Wilder money for a fight after he's done all these great things. John Jones, categorically underpaid. If Dana White's out there, and this is the guy who's going to be in charge of this for the record, if he's out there going, no one's going to make $30 million for a fight, if he has anything to say about it. How are you going to attract people? That's the draw. That's the carrot. The UFC is not going to disclose anything financially that they don't have to. They're just going to say, we take care of our fighters. They make so much money. And then you ask any fighter, especially after they leave the UFC, and they all talk about how dog shit it is. And those stories and all that stuff got out there enough that enough people looked at MMA and went, you know what? Probably not worth it. The injury load is ridiculous. The training schedule is arduous. And the payout is just not worth it. You can't fix that without increasing payout, and the UFC won't do it. They won't shift their market share. They won't shift their rev share, not their market share. They won't shift that either, but that's another discussion. They're going to pay less than 20% annual revenue to the fighters. That's it. We know that. I did the math on this. I went over it for you guys when the numbers for the Paramount deal came out. They could increase in real numbers, in like bottom line dollars, a lot, and still pay less of a percentage. That's the point. That's the problem. That is what boxing looks at. Anyone trying to get into boxing, if you're going to wind up looking at what Zuffa boxing is going to do, it is not going to pay you what boxers are making now outside of it. If you don't have that incentive structure, you're not going to revitalize American boxing. It's just not going to happen. But these are the people we're trusting with this. What a joke. What an absolute joke. This is nothing but the extension of monopolistic business practices. Nothing but that. And they're going to do it. And you know what? If everyone, I have told my elected officials that I, as one of their constituents, oppose this. That's all I can do. This is federal legislation that they're trying to get through. That's all I can do. My congressmen and both of my senators are aware of my position to the extent that they care. Whether they're going to do what they're going to do, one way or the other. But that's all I can do. I can tell you all this. My voice doesn't. I don't have a big megaphone. I don't have anything like that. But I have seen this story. I have seen what the UFC has done. They're trying to move it to boxing. I promise you, if you are believing the gilded bullshit that is their sell job for this, you are not going to get what they're selling you. They are not going to revive American boxing. They're not. They are not going to usher in the next great era for American fighting. You might get a couple of fights, but you're not going to get the next big star. You're not going to get the next big name to come into this. Because if you don't have the opportunity to get a 20, 30, 40, 50, $100 million payday in boxing, I don't know that you go into it. Now, again, I'm not under any delusion about this. Not everyone's making that money. Not even close. But the upper bound potential in boxing is orders of magnitude greater than the UFC. This is empirical fact. The UFC is trying to import their business model to boxing and take that ceiling and drop it. Their sort of counter-argument is, but we'll raise the floor. No, this has been debunked. The notion that MMA pays better at the lower end is badly aggregated data. It is badly compared data. A club fighter doesn't make as much as a guy fighting in the UFC. Okay. What's a club fighter in boxing make relative to a regional MMA fighter? How about we compare apples to apples, huh? Oh, we don't like that. Suddenly, it doesn't look the same. The only point at which MMA pay outscales boxing is in like the a small margin of the middle class of draws. That's it. Once again, there is a mountain of data on this. Ugh. But hey, let's just go along with this because we're the California State Athletic Commission abdicating our responsibility in favor of cronyism. Just piss off. And boxing, you know what? If you want to know how badly broken boxing is, what have they done about it? What has anyone in boxing done about this? Done to oppose this? Dude, MMA, people in the MMA space who have seen this story before are the ones making noise about it. No one in boxing. Eddie Hearn finally started making some noise now. I'm like, yeah, looking forward to, Eddie Hearn and Dana White having a promoter off. Like, Eddie Hearn's a better promoter than Dana White, sure. The revenue, the profit that the UFC generates is greater than the entire revenue Matchroom generates. Eddie Hearn's Matchroom, right? I think he's Matchroom. He's Matchroom or he's Top Ranker. No, Top Rank's Al Heyman. So Matchroom with Eddie Hearn. Whatever his promotional entity is. The UFC will have more profit in 2025 than Matchroom will have in revenue for 2025. When whatever boxing entity they come up with gets to just lean on that war chest, import a, again, predatory and unfair business practice, like, there is no fight. It's not a fight, guys. Like, boy, I can't wait to see ECW and WWE go head to head. Like, no, that wasn't a fight at all. Oh, but, ECW's creative was better. In some respects, yeah. They had an innovative product. Boy, they sure did. You know what else they did? You know what they didn't have? Steady revenue. Ugh. That's a whole other thing. That's where we are. That's where we are with this. And again, the California State Athletic Commission has now said, we all think this is a good idea. Ugh. And look, man, I don't live in California. I have no doubt that, like, my appointed, not even elected officials, the athletic commissions are appointed. I have no doubt that the people doing that job in my state suck just as much. Pretty sure they said Power Slap was okay, and then in return we got a bunch of, wrestling and UFC events that came through here. I don't know how many of my tax dollars went to go subsidize the dumbassery of professional wrestling coming to Salt Lake again in the near future. But, they're getting site fees for this crap. They're not coming here out of the goodness of their hearts. We're paying. Ugh. So don't get sideways with the giant promotional entity and does all this live entertainment. You don't want to get sideways. This is just dystopian, man. I don't black pill about the state of the country very often or about too many things, but the way this one's going and the fact that, like, nobody cares, ugh, disheartening. The people who are, like, going to get run over by this aren't even like raising a sign to stand in front of the tank as a sign of, like, resistance or protest. They're just too lazy and stupid to get out of the way. Ugh. All right. Well, on a less positive note, believe it or not, announced for the undercard for the upcoming fight between Jake Paul and Gervonta Tank Davis. The third fight between Anderson Silva and Chris Weidman. Anderson Silva is north of 50. Chris Weidman has looked like crap for a while, especially since his leg broke. I mean, he's looked pretty bad since Luke Rockhold beat him, let's be honest. I don't want this. Who wants this? Who in the world wants to see these borderline senior citizens go out there and geriatrically try to box? Good grief. No. Do not want. Stop this. Please. What the hell are we doing? Alright, well, that annoys me. Alright, that's all I've got written down here. I'm going to check the old social medias. If not, I'm going to do plugs and get out of here. Knew this one was going to go a little bit long, but man, I did not think we'd be as long as we've been going thus far. So I thank you for sticking with this one, guys. Thank you very much a lot. Oh, okay, nope. I don't see anything new there worth talking about here, so plugs. Monday, we will be talking about Black Phone 2 over on Damn You Hollywood, a sequel no one asked for. So give that a listen if you're so inclined. Last week we had several of us talking about Tron Ares. I was there, Mark was there, David Wright was there, Matt Kettner was there. We had a good time. So any of that is on the table. Double check. I think that's it for my podcasts. I'm not on that. I am not on that. Nope, that's it for me. So I will be covering WWE SmackDown on Friday, per usual, and UFC 321 on Saturday. So stop by for any of that. We will be back here next week to review UFC 321, and we will preview. All right, double checking. Go away. Get on with you. Okay. Yeah, we will be previewing UFC on ESPN Plus 121. Back to the warehouse. What do we got there? Your main event is Steve Garcia versus David Onama. What the? Nobody cares about this. Good grief. Can I find anything on this card? Hang on. Jeremiah Wells and Temba Garimbo. Don't care. Waldo Cortez Acosta and Ante Delia. Don't care. Moderately curious if Delia can keep it going, but Phil Rowe and Seokyun Ko, don't care. Alan Nascimento and Rafael Estevam, okay, that moderate. Alice Ardelian and Montserrat Ruiz, don't care. Charlie Radke and Daniel Frunza, don't care. Billy Elikana and Kevin Christian, do not care. Timmy Kwamba and Chung Ho Lee, don't care. Ketlin Vieira and Norma Dumont, super don't care. Isaac Delgarian and Yadier Delvale, Delvage? I think he's Cuban. I would put a different action on the double L. Moderate. Toledo Alencar and Ariane Carnelose, do not care. And Dante Johnson and Cedricus Dumas. Boy, do I not care. Wow. What an ass card. That is terrible. Everything about that's terrible. There's not one fight on that card I legitimately think is going to be good. Good grief. All right. Full preview of that monstrosity next week. Until then, thank you all very much for listening and sticking with the show again. I will be back, as I mentioned. Stay safe out there and continue to be well, be safe, and behave.